Hello and welcome to this edition of the King Heroes Journey podcast, where I have Amandha Vollmer here, one of my favorite King Heroes, a true King Hero, and one of the women King Heroes. As you know, since if you've been on my channel before, you'll know I interview a lot of men. And Amandha, you've got the balls and the feminine mystique. So sorry that I muted that. So it's really beautiful to watch you. Honestly, I'm such a fan of yours. We had a chance to meet in New York this summer, and I was just getting to know you then and getting to know your work. Your work is so expansive. You have expertise in a lot of different areas. And I just want to let people know, if there's anybody here who doesn't know you, by way of introduction, that Amandha is a doctor of naturopathic medicine, trained at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto. She also holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture Biotechnology at the University of Lethbridge. She is a holistic health practitioner, helping people prevent disease for the last 15 years already. She owns Yum Naturals Emporium, which is both an online store and an in-person store that I hear is membership only now. So I'm very interested and curious about that from a business perspective. She's also a blogger, a vlogger, mother of a young and creative daughter. The published author of Healing with DMSO. After you and I met, you were just licking your wounds after publishing that book. I know it's so insane to publish. It's like I've spent the last year cleaning my book up. So I'm glad I didn't give it to you, because I can give you a brand new copy now.
Nice.
And so some of you might know Amandha for the realm of law. That I never expected to get into that in any way. I wasn't interested in law. Once I realized that I needed to start educating myself, I resented it. I was mad. I didn't want anything to do with it. But at some point I just flipped and let go all of that resistance, came to a place of much greater empowerment and the willingness to put in the time. And as you and I were discussing before we got on, it's not something, someone can't just give you a magic answer. I'll say right now as a disclaimer, please do not pursue Amandha to write documents for you or edit documents or give you legal advice in any way. That's definitely not what we're doing here. This is all education based. And I know you have a lot of fans here, and there's a ton of circles out there that are studying law, getting together. There's Telegram groups coming out, the yin yang. So there are a ton of opportunities. I'm happy to be the go-between for that, and we'll take any pressure off Amandha. But do definitely look into her health work that we're not going to focus on today. Maybe we'll have another chance to do that, and maybe even the possibility that I could bring Amandha behind the scenes for a bit of a workshop down the line. We'll see how that goes. Just so you guys know, I am hosting a private Zoom call after we are done here in about an hour, or I'll probably be 90 minutes. I'll stay on for a little while after, since Amandha has to go. And we're going to talk about how to get personal authority and power back working with archetypes. So just so you know, I'll be sharing a link to that as well. And Amandha, wow, I honestly am thrilled to have you here. I'm thrilled to see you. It was a pleasure to meet you in person. Your energy is stunning. I watched you not only in a more personal, casual context, and then a professional. You got up on stage and gave a great talk in what town in New York was that? I can't remember where we went to.
It was near Woodstock area.
Yeah, and it was just a knock 'em down, beautiful, amazing, inspiring talk that left everybody on fire and lining up for an hour to talk to you. And then we had some fun on the way home. Anyway, I won't go into detail about that. But what inspired you to study the law in the first place?
Well, thanks for hosting this, by the way, Beth. And yes, it was a fun time, and it was nice to feel like a rebel doing things where we're told we can't cross the border, we're told we're not allowed to travel, and all of this sort of talk where, I traveled the border at least twice during all the lockdowns. So you can do it. You just have to know your rights and know the law and know that everything that they're doing is illegal, and also underneath their corporatocracy, it's not law. So if you know what the difference between law and a mandate is, then you can stand in your power properly. And I got pushed into law in a lot of different ways. It's an interesting journey because I find I had to learn about every different part of this reality. So I had to study philosophy. I felt pulled to, I wanted to understand everything. For one, I wanted to understand why things were run so shoddily. Why would they create these grid systems, for example? I would start to question even just traffic grids. Like, why would they make it so congested? Why they could have done such brilliantly elegant setups for just things like traffic or travel, and they don't, and this sort of thing. And so it was just my observations of life that got me curious. And in the curiosity of it, I wanted to learn some of the history and why laws formed the way they did, and how we kind of got to now. And then when I graduated from naturopathic college, and I was very awake to what was happening there, the destruction of our natural medicine, the methods in which these dark people, do this sort of attack, that they don't just come out with, showing their cards. It's a very subversive activities and psychological warfare that they do on populations to manipulate and etch away at purity. That's really the techniques and the tactics. And I started to see that in my own college, what I mean by college is in the directive. So the board, as they were once called, and now they're called Kano, which is basically an overseeing body, which, by the way, all licensing bodies need to go. We do not need licenses at all. Licensing is underneath a corporate entity. So this is the problem that's happened, is everything got sneakily put into a corporate entity where we're not even living underneath the umbrella of a true political situation where it's about, even slave rights, even if you want to go there, that we're just slaves to a system. It's not even that anymore. It's long gone into a corporate setup, right? So basically you're just following the dictates of a corporation. Say you worked for Ford Company or Bell Canada or something like that. It's just like the CEOs say, oh, we've made a decision amongst our board members that we've decided that you have to have a license when you drive, right? It's like that. And so all of those things are not a requirement for things like safety and regulation or any sort of ordinance. Nothing like that would be necessary. So I started to question a lot of those things, why we needed all this paperwork, the taxation laws. I was like, property taxes seem kind of scammy because you're supposed to be able to own your property. But if you're paying property tax, you're not really owning it. You're still paying rent. So that's not quite right either. And I realized it's all because everything's written in this structure, and it's done in such a mismanaged way that you have always a growing debt and an ever increasing need for more and more of the bottom line to continue to grow, right? So if you understand things as far as Canada is concerned, now this is across the board in most countries, but they're different in different countries. So the law will present differently, whether it's a commonwealth, dictatorship, or whether it's in a republic. So you need to understand your laws, your constitution and your history for your country. But as far as Canada goes, none of the constitutions, the British North American Act, any of these documents were properly ratified. It all came in really under the Crown rule and as a corporation. And when we went bankrupt, the third bankruptcy, and it was supposed to go back to the Crown, what they did is they just got the UN involved, which is through the Vatican, to start to take over and seize property. So really what's happening right now is they're seizing our assets. They're counting all the stock of what's here to sell it off to the highest bidder because we're broke. And that's why we see China moving in and buying up everything. This is why we don't have a prime minister. We don't have a proper political system. It's not about the people. It's just about balancing the books of the bankrupt, insolvent corporation. That's it. And I started to see these problems back in naturopathic college because, again, I didn't understand the licensing. I didn't understand the silencing, which is an anagram, by the way. If you mix around silent,
I
it
just heard you
means,
say that. Yeah,
mhm.
so good.
And it's fascinating, but also who really has authority over you? I had to question that, because if you are in integrity and you are working with natural law or nature and God as your sole authority, then really there should be other laws available if you make a mistake and actually do something wrong. So it just comes down to what is right and what is wrong. And you know that if you physically hurt someone and you intentionally mean to do that, then that's wrong. As it comes very simple, you could explain these things to a child, really.
A child knows.
A child knows what's right and what's wrong. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If you lie, it's wrong, unless you're lying in a sense they're trying to protect someone, then there could be an argument for why you would lie. But again, you would have a backstory to that, right? You would be able to explain why that was so. And what we've had here is a lot of color of law come in, and irregularities in that, just based on self-serving, interests of the corporatocracy, and not about us or what our needs are, or the betterment of us, or giving us more options, or improving our lives, or making us more wealthy, or helping us establish food security, or any of those things. We see the opposite. We see everything becoming more inflationary, everything becoming more, hidden sleight of hand, scandals, literally in every bureau, in every aspect. There is corruption. So, it doesn't really take a genius to see that something is wrong and has been wrong for a long time. I still find it fascinating how people defend these criminals and obey them. It's mind-boggling to me. I would never obey something I knew was against my heart and my soul and fundamental, what was right. The righteousness of being here, right? If you were walking down the street and you saw somebody beat someone and steal their wallet, if you were in integrity, you would go and help that person, or you would try to stop that person, right? And it's like, but seeing that in a structure, a political structure, it's like, okay, it's supported, right? It's no different to me. So I saw that in naturopathic college. I saw how they were, they'd already done that to the chiropractic college. They had dysregulated them and then re-regulated them, because a lot of it was, again, this psychological manipulation. Like, if we give you doctor title, we give you prescribing rights, then you have to do what we say, right? So they're all manipulation tools. So once I got out of school and they refused to really go through the licensing with me, I got into a really interesting scenario of a large house, and I wanted to start a community and had other healers involved. And, I was quite naive back then. I didn't realize that naturopaths would hurt other naturopaths. I didn't think that was a thing. I somehow thought we were one big family or something. And that was, well, we want that. Like, I think deep down in our pure selves, we want togetherness. You know what I mean? We want harmony with each other. And I just assumed that if people were healers, that they would want that, and that was my fault in that. And they just took me right out of the situation. So I had to learn law. I was forced to learn admiralty law and commercial law, common law, natural law, ecclesiastical law, all of these different kinds, so I could navigate the court system, so I could prevent myself from going bankrupt, so I could write off documentation using conditional acceptance and accepted for value methods. And I was able to practice a lot of them in court systems, because might as well, I was there and it was on their dime. So I thought it would be good to see what worked and what didn't, and what got you, put aside, what jurisdiction really was, what that meant. And, so it was an education, an experiential education, really. So that's what got me. That was about 12 years ago or so now. And I've learned a lot since. But what I think is most important for people listening as a takeaway is to understand that there is no higher authority over you other than God. That's it. You could consider your parents as a higher authority, as a respect, like you respect them. You know what I mean? You respect what they say if they are in their integrity. But what I'm saying is none of these political aspects or any of these color of law overlays are of a higher value than what you know is right and true and correct in this place, and that you have every right to stand up against. And there's remedy for that.
That's a beautiful point. And I'll jump ahead in my questions and just say, how you said that this is really we're in a spiritual war. How did you say it specifically about that? Anyway, see how fast I can. Oh yeah, spiritual test. You considered navigating the law to be a spiritual test, and I actually think that's a very beautiful thing, because I didn't have to abandon my spiritual pursuit to study law. They're so intimately tied. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, you can look at ancient writings, and a lot of law is written into a lot of King James Bible or previous Bibles. You'll see it's really a book of law. I mean, that's like if you look at canon law, which is Vatican law, Roman law, that's also a lot of our law structure comes from that, which you can get through Bible, study, right? And when you understand, like from a spiritual standpoint, that it's really about God's law, or that natural principles. So if you observe nature, you will see what is in that world, what's right or wrong. And when you connect and commune in that way, you'll get, through the heart and through the crown, you will get insight, and you will get the knowledge that you need to navigate that correctly, rather than letting the ego or letting the broken parts of yourself or the subconscious programming rule you, right? Where you're creating controversy, as they say, right? You're not standing in honor, right? You're being dishonorable, and that will always get you into trouble in their system, because it actually is a system that's meant to be fair, or was set up to be fair. Right. Where it went wrong is that it stopped teaching people about it properly and started to get covert, and you had all these secret societies popping up, so that you had to then take oaths into these societies in order to gain any of the spiritual knowledge, any of the knowledge of law, any of the banking knowledge, stuff that you would need to get yourself ahead in this realm, in this world, right? How to get property, how to do all those things. So you'd have to offer up a part of yourself as a trade-off just to get something that should have been naturally given to you or taught to you from birth. And that's, I think, where we really started to go into descending, as a people, into some dark times, is this coveting of knowledge. And they destroyed the library to Alexandria, for example. They stole all of our beautiful, elegant tech that we had. I mean, we had it all. They lied about our history. They lied about literally everything. I mean, they said that we were, some sort of cave dwelling, baboons who knew nothing and died young of diseases. And they just tell us these lies. And that is not at all what we came from, not even close. We were enlightened. We had free energy devices. Look at all the Antiquitech and the star forts that we have everywhere in the world. I mean, none of those are properly explained. You have fake archaeology lying to us about all this crap and just distracting us constantly so we can't figure it out. And I think we're at the pinnacle now. I think what this is about now is us really starting to awaken. And what that means is we're starting to see the lie all the way through. And we're bringing forward that knowledge once again. And those of us who feel like I feel I'm sort of in like a holding pattern in a way where I have a lot of it available and it keeps coming to me, as if at some point in time, we'll be the new teachers of this knowledge to help navigate this reemergence, this golden age, or whatever you want to call it, into another awareness of what we lost. And when we can open up the vaults in the Vatican, we can get all this stuff that they took out of the Library of Alexandria, and we can rebuild our stuff, and we can have our free energy devices again, right? And that's exciting. And I do feel that if we pass these spiritual tests, which are now, despite all odds, we will overcome. We will achieve what we're meant to, because I as much as this place has a lot of suffering and a lot of illusion, I think, like tests, right? We're meant to pass them, but once you gain the lesson, once you pass the test, you don't just get kicked in the nards. You're supposed to actually, get some sort of something achieving about, like, through that.
Yeah.
And right,
Prize,
it does,
something.
or just some sort of elevation in your own, your own awareness, so that there's some sort of an achievement and a gratification to that, and a responsibility still going forward with that knowledge. But when it's not so burdensome, it doesn't feel so heavy. It's a achievement through a frequency of light, more than having to do everything ourselves and struggle all the time. I do think we're supposed to traverse that and achieve something.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's exactly how I feel. We have Wednesday night law meetings. There's 2 back to back. It often ends up being like 7 hours of calls. And I come away from it high as a kite. And, I'll just get another little bit of nugget, or I'll be able to speak to something, or I can teach somebody else something. I realize I learned it, or I'll have taken some action that, just got myself out of some fraudulent FedEx bills. And I just felt like $1,000,000. I'm like, oh my God, I did that, tiny little thing. I wrote 3 letters and they left me alone. So like, that's a miracle to me. And that is the prize, if there is one. It's just this continuous raising of energy, and what I so hear in your voice. You're so solid. Your energy is incredibly grounded, and just with all that experience, having I don't know if there's any stories that you feel like you can share. I know there's ones you can't. Is there any both success and fails you've had, that because there's such good teaching points for people when they hear what somebody else has been through? No pressure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of different stories where I've tried something and then it worked or didn't work or whatnot, and I have done a lot of that paperwork, and it is really nice when you get that empowerment feeling where you realize that you're who's the creditor, right, and who's the debtor, and you correct that situation, and you have to know who you are, and there's a huge power in knowing who you are, especially in commerce. If you know who you are, then you can always achieve something there. And I think, that was one of my biggest understandings, was that I'm actually the creditor. They're the ones who have stolen from me and made it look like I owe them back, right? Through the birth certificate bond, through the trusts and things that they set up because of the birth certificate bond, and because of all of the name trusts that they set up, that, I went to get a loan. And it seems like when you go to a loan, well, you think, well, somebody gave you money, you should pay them back, don't you think, right? I'd get that guilt trip all the time. I said, well, if Beth came to me and she asked me for $1,000 and I gave it to her on a loan, I would expect that to be paid back. That's a private contract. But these are not private contracts, and they're not even proper contracts. And if you understand how contracts are supposed to be, then you realize they were fraud from the beginning. And all you need to do is stand in truth and ask proper questions as king, right? Asking as king, and say, I'm not too sure you guys were on the up and up when you said you were lending me the dollars, right? Like, first of all, they're debt notes. I'm not supposed to pay a debt with a debt. So how do I get around that? And where'd you get the money from again? I just wanted to double check, because I signed something, but I didn't see you sign with me. And you didn't give me full disclosure on this. And if you're doing fractional reserve banking and you're taking out of my bond 9 times what I signed over, what are you doing with the other 9 times the amount that, you lent to me? And with all this usury, which is supposed to be also illegal, I just want to make sure, if I pay you back, that I'm not acting illegally to continue the fraud going forward. And those are some of my biggest successes with the banks, because I really just put it on them, and I simply was asking questions, realizing that we were in bankruptcy and insolvency since 1933, and you're not supposed to operate this way. So if we're going to balance the books properly, this isn't really the right way to do it. I'm going to be creating more messes, and if I'm being responsible, to accounting purposes for the ones and the zeros, or the pluses and the minuses, or however you want to think about it, then I really should not be handing over more debt notes to you. So I just want to there should be another remedy provided another way to balance that out, whether it's bond balancing or trust, these sorts of things, but they don't give you that. They don't share that information with you, so it means it's fraudulent, right? So all of those things, basically, when you do things like that, they run away because they can't answer those questions legitimately. They will ignore you. They'll ignore your legitimate questions backed with research and law and other information. You're not doing it out of nothing. And then they will usually just throw that loan in the pile that they will on-sell to a third party. And once they have on-sold to a third party, the contract that you thought you had in the first place, even though that wasn't really legitimate, now for sure at this point it is null and void because they have on-sold it. So you no longer have a contract with the third party. And if they begin to harass you, then you ask them the same questions. You say, well, look, I was trying to get these answers originally and I never did. And they defaulted. And here's my paperwork showing they defaulted. So now I'd like you to answer the questions because you bought it. So it's on you. Even though I have no contract with you, I have no business with you, but I'd still like those questions answered if you're either paying it forward to them or you have some sort of contract, and then you say, by the way, I don't do things for free under commercial law. I have a fee schedule. So if you're going to, drag me into court or you need educational services from me because you don't know the law, or, I need to go and drive to the post office and stamp or mail anything, all those costs are part of your fee schedule. And that starts to accrue. So I had hundreds of thousands of dollars of fee schedules put out to the banks and to these corporations, right? To these third parties. So I guess the biggest success I had that was really kind of a test that I can talk about because it was a while ago now, was one of these third-party creditors who had found out that I had purchased a house, and they, even though, again, mortgage is a whole other fraud we could get into.
Oh, yeah. Do you know Timothy Madden, by the way? Sorry to interrupt, but he's all over that. Yeah, I've had him on here like 3 times already. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can watch those and learn about the mortgage fraud, the dead deed, the dead deed trusts, right? So that's all fraudulent. And the more you know, eh? So with that particular one, they had put a lien on my house, but the problem was they didn't do, a lot of what's going on right now is actually there's no due process. The proper due process of law is completely just not even happening. It's not a thing.
They're cutting a lot of corners.
Well, yeah, because people don't understand, they're like mobsters taken over. So that's what's happened. So mobsters and goons and thieves and liars and scammers, they don't do due process. They're actual criminals. So they're going to do criminal process. They're not going to ask permission. They're not going to do it properly, right? That's what's happening in Canada right now. That's our leadership in Canada right now. It's all fraudulent, 100%. So they did that without serving me properly, right? They didn't do proper service. So the court, I had to go once I found out, and this was when I was trying to actually get out of a private mortgage into a bank mortgage. And they're like, oh, you have a lien on the house we have to satisfy first. I'm like, where did that come from? And so the judge just issued it. I was supposedly summoned, but I never got any paperwork. So I had to approach a judge and I had to open the case up and inform them that I wasn't properly serviced and that I need to know about the case and be given disclosure and all of these sorts of things that you're supposed to do before you go ahead and just judge and make that ruling. So I got that to happen. And then I approached the third party and I said, well, by the way, in Canada, specifically in Ontario, every province has a different rule. I have, it's only 2 years to collect on a debt. So it was past the 2-year point. I said, you don't have any rule of law to even go after this because it's past 2 years of collection. And that's really all I needed to do mostly in this case. I didn't need to go with the full questions and the whole illegality of it. I just needed to ask them to prove to the judge that they could, under the statute of limitations clauses in Ontario, collect after 2 years. And they couldn't. So what happened, of course, I served them my fee schedule has bills, and I served them for my time and wasting my energy, right?
Yeah, so good.
Well, that gets their attention. So these bills are not about making money. It's all about leverage. You're not there to cash on these things. And again, if you're in integrity, you understand that you're using these things in commercial law as leverage. So I had the court date when I showed up, and they pulled me into the side office to discuss before going before the judge. And so they negotiated, because the amount of fees that I had for them was pretty much on par or higher with what I was supposedly owing them. They said, okay, here's the deal. You just, rip up the bills and we'll take the lien, off the house right away and shake hands and off we go. And that was the deal. But I could have, if I wanted to, said, nah, no deal, gone in and won that case. And they would have had to pay me and take the lien off because of that. Right. But it wasn't about, at that point, it wasn't about that. Right? So, but that was I walked out of there realizing the empowerment of that, the power of standing up for yourself, of knowing these truths and employing them in a grounded manner, not in a way of hatred or attacking or any of those nasty energies, just purely from a fact-based place, and then achieving that. And that felt just, it felt right. So that was one really good example for me.
That's awesome. Were you showing mercy by not following through with the charges?
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, I could have really washed the floor with them if I wanted to, right? I don't really think they're great people. They're not nice people, but that's not my job. I'm not judge and jury.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Leave that to God, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. Great story. I've heard you talk about, and I've certainly for myself come around to this as well, that many people are pursuing common law, and we had a bunch of figures in Canada, and I know I was going down some rabbit holes, and really came around to the work of Cal Washington, the notice of liabilities, and really focusing on commerce. So it sounds like you're in the same boat. Why do you think that common law doesn't work and commerce does?
Well, I think that it can work once we establish a proper constitution and courts and get our sheriffs back and these sorts of things. Then we can reemerge our common law, which is the law of the people, right? Like you and I and a bunch of our peers could get together and make decisions, right, about somebody who's being lawless, and we need to they are doing treasonous acts, and we need to follow through on that, right? But we don't really, in Canada, because of the corporatocracy and the way that a lot of these systems have not been put through properly, we don't have a republic, not like in the States. So in the US, they can use common law. And in a lot of Europe, they can use common law. But here in Canada, we don't have, people think you can, but good luck with that. Until, yes, like the British North American Act was never ratified properly. Like you don't have the documents you think you have to back that up. That's the problem. That's why they laugh at us. That's why when I tried common law tactics in Canada, I got thrown in jail. I got my ass handed to me because it won't work. Because they are, it's like I said, it's like going to Bell Canada and saying, well, I don't like your rules that you made up. You're going to need to change them because I am part of my people, and my people, I'm representative of my people, and my people don't like your law. So change it. They're not, they're going to say, no, we're good. We're our own corporation and you don't have any say here. So you're either an employee of the corporation or I can't even see you under a jurisdiction, right? So you got to know what entity you're dealing with or what jurisdiction you're coming in under when you're having those conversations. And most people don't know how to do that, and the amount of work it would take to actually pull that court into some sort of common law situation and have a jury of your peers and all these things. It sounds good on paper and it's realistic on paper, but do it then. Like I see all these groups talking about it, right? They talk a good talk, but then go ahead and have your wins. I would like to see that in Canada happen. And then I'll go, okay, maybe you did get the procedure right or whatever. Yes, there's documents where it's written in some of those things, but it's not what we have ruling the day here right now. So until we can properly get our republic happening here and the people together, we the people, then how are you supposed to have proper common law that's actually you can follow through on? Do we even have sheriffs? We don't have a corporatocracy that owns a bunch of guards that they call police that does their bidding for them. We don't have anybody. Ombudsman is also part of them. We don't have anybody there to say, you're right, this is trampling over our rights. We need to take them to task in common law, have a jury of our peers come together and, stomp this out. We'll go arrest, Trudeau, or we'll go arrest, Doug Ford, these liars and thieves and con men, and put them right before the jury and get them under treasonous acts that they've done. But there's no way we can pursue treason now. That's why they're doing that's why they get away with literally everything right now.
Wow.
So,
wow. Yeah, exactly. And do you think it's on purpose, or is it just people's nescience, if you can call it that there's the market, our world is flooded with the common law messages and these warriors, and they're just out there. Do you think there's anything on purpose there? I mean, it's probably not a fair question.
Well, I think this is why I was saying earlier to be very clear about what you're learning and under what country's situation, and understand the history. And it's not like you're just going to get it all overnight. And so when you're learning from Alphonse Fagioli, or if you're learning from, Gary or any of these people, you need to just take the information and go do the research and try to digest it and understand it, and realize that there's so much history to go through to understand how the whole plan was to etch away and break down our common law and break down what rights we did have, so that the corporate entity, I mean, we have new corporate entities that weren't there before. We have the corporation of Ontario Corp and Corporation of Canada and stuff, and these are all registered corporations.
Offshore.
Yes, right. So you've got these. We don't have these. We just have charter agreements. Like even in the charter, they'll claim charter rights, right? They're just privileges under the corporation. They're not your common law rights. They're not birthrights. None of that. They're still corporate agreements. It's just saying, yeah, okay, we'll throw you a bone here or there. We'll try to be nice, right? Mm-hmm. So that's until we get sheriffs back, then we can have some sort of muscle. How are you supposed to follow through on any of it?
Exactly. Enforcement is not possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. So what is the name game, and why doesn't that work?
Well, again, they've made us into corporations with the name game. That ultimately it's saying that now you are the straw man, which is because corporations can interact with corporations, but they can't interact with humans. Mm-hmm. So if they're a corporation, they have to make us corporate entities so that the money can flow back and forth, so you can make deals and have, all the contract law and all this stuff. So that was the only way they could have interactions with us, is to make us corporations to go along with it. So otherwise they can't even see you. They literally they will say, you're not here. Like when I went into court and I claimed myself as a clan name or as a family name, which is you should never do, automatically the judge stopped looking at me, stopped seeing me, and only had a conversation with the prosecutor. I had no say in that court. There was not a word that was going to go on record, nothing, because I just told her that I'm not that corporate name, so the corporation cannot have a conversation with me because I'm not representing the corporation now. I'm a human, and they don't recognize that. Right. So then the game they play often is they'll say, oh, you don't think you're a person, right? Because person, if you look up in the Black's Law Dictionary, person isn't meaning a human being. It's the corporate entity, right? Mm-hmm. And but they'll trustee. It's the trustee. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So they will try to trick you and say that you're crazy, so you should go into a mental institute. Mm-hmm. So that's how they get jurisdiction over you. Is they get you to sign something in the institution so they can say, oh, see, it is that person, and we can connect them to their birth certificate or whatever. And it's a name game thing. So that's why you'll say, lowercase and all this sort of stuff. But Mainly if you use without prejudice when you sign everything. That's one thing people can do easily, to say that I am, I'm not coming in as a corporate entity. I'm actually when I write my name, I'm as the human, I'm as the individual, the living, breathing man or woman signing this, So that's one claim. I claim all my rights, I claim those things, because you don't get them until you claim them. That's that's how it works, right? People think, oh, but you stomped on my rights, but like, oh, I didn't hear you claim them, right? And this is how they've slyly and sneakily come into the system to etch away at these things through lack of knowledge, and through taking them out of the schools and taking them out of the churches and taking the knowledge away bit by bit, by infiltrating boards, just like Rockefeller did, right? Okay, well, here's how it's going to work with all these natural schools. It's fine, you can have your natural school, but we want 2 of our members sitting on your board, and then just chip away at it little by little, patiently, until it's not there anymore, right? And that's how we've gotten to now. And in a way, that's how we need to get it back. We need to reverse engineer that and come in and say, well, now once we establish rule of common law and we get our sheriffs back and we have our alternative medicine or our proper law set up, we say, well, here's the deal. You guys are operating in a criminal way, but we don't want to kill you all or jail you all, for treason. But so we'll help you transition over into the proper methods. So we'll have our people sit on the board and make sure you're doing things correctly, and we'll make sure that the hospitals are running properly and all these things, right? So that's the way we're going to have to take it back ultimately. But the UN is here. I mean, it's been here since like 1992. So we're fighting UNDRIP and we're doing all this stuff. And I'm starting to realize that we're trying to like fight internal communications in a corporation that's already got long plans to sell off our land and to, when you're in bankruptcy, you sell your stuff off to try to pay off your bankrupt corporation. That's what we're at. That's why this housing bubble is going to pop in like 4 weeks, and all the prices are going to jack up. This is also why the continued lockdowns, because they need to make us bankrupt and put us in a corner so we agree to the terms. Otherwise, if they don't reduce the population and they don't make people bankrupt, so they can't come and grab the land to give it to China or whomever the highest bidder is through the UN, right? That's the deal. That's how it's happening. These are all the politicians you're seeing. They're just agents for the UN to do that, to clean it up in a way that's tidy, and you don't have to come in and kill everyone with guns, because that's really wasteful, and people will obviously figure it out at that point. So it's easier if you just lie to them, say it's something scary, and that's why they have to stay at home, and that's why they lose their jobs, and that's why all of these things are happening, is because of that, because they care about you and they care about your safety. But it's just to keep you distracted while they rip the rug out from under you. And they've sold mortgages, they've sold our driver's licenses, they've sold all our bonds, done. Everything that we think all the pensions are long gone.
I was just going to say,
they're all sold. Okay?
Yeah,
they're gone.
Just pieces of paper in a box. Nothing going on.
They don't exist. No, they don't. Yeah. So they want why do you think they've been targeting the elderly?
I know. Exactly.
They right?
Horrendous. So, my parents died 20 years earlier than their mothers anyway, not their fathers, but and I just can't help like 20 years worth of their pensions and everything that they had coming to them gone. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's a scandal. It was a scandal anyway, but then they sold that offshore. So it's not even ours here. It's not even going back here, like into economies here. Taxes don't come back here. People think that. They actually think that they're good citizens by paying taxes, that it's coming back to the schools and it's coming into the roads and all this stuff. They just eat up the lies. They know nothing. They know nothing about where this money goes and what's happening, because they keep it that way. Do you think criminals are going to come out and tell you their plan and tell you how they're going to take you over and how they're going to cull the population? And of course not. Why are people so naive? This is what I find shocking. And I think, well, I mean, I do too, but I mean, I think a lot of it is obviously the distractions, the brainwashing, and the food and the diet and the lifestyle and the drugs, right? That's going to keep you from being able to think. Because if your gut's a mess, your brain's a mess. How are you gonna figure it out? You don't even care to figure it out if you're just struggling day to day, making, your minimum wage and trying to get through your life, your chaotic life, that the world keeps, encroaching further and further into your space, right? So how would you have the energy and the wherewithal to even figure it out, And then when you need to go to them for a handout, that's even worse. That's what they're doing next, right? They're going to make you broke so that you come into the universal basic income, so that they'll just say, okay, here's how many slaves we want. It's the China system. It's the exact same system. It's like, because it works there, doesn't it? It works just fine. You have all your billions of slaves. They're in line. They're in the compounds. They work for the corporations. They make the widgets, right? They get enough food to just get by. They get enough trinkets and gadgets to be entertained, so they won't revolt. The ones who revolt go off to the re-education camps, right, where they either disappear or they're whatever they do them, right? And that's what's coming to Canada and Australia. Those two countries are really in danger right now. The rest of the world is like on fire. See what's happening in Ireland? Oh my God. They're just they're just going nuts. I mean, a lot of these countries are like, no, Bucharest, all these places, they're like, no thanks, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. Conditional acceptance. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a no.
Exactly. Yeah, so it becomes a real game of courage to do what you're doing. Where do you find it, and what makes this all worth it for you, Amanda?
Well, I don't believe in the one lifetime. So I think if you understand that we're eternal beings and that this is a soul's journey, it helps a lot. If you don't have a spiritual barometer, I can see why you'd be very self-centered and very, focused on this one life and whatever the trappings are of this illusion. But to me, this is like a living, walking dream. And whatever the lesson is before me, it's something I'm meant to achieve. I'm supposed to get something of that to make my soul even more etched in its individuality, so that I can walk in a way that is honoring and reflecting back to divine source, right? So divine source living through us and experiencing through us, and not just some sort of like get my gonads off all the time sort of idea, right? To me, that's very shallow and hollow, and I don't find satisfaction there anyway. So I find satisfaction in creativity and in knowledge and in teaching and in sharing and in nature and those sorts of things. And I think the courage just comes from, that deep within drive to do what's supposed to be the right thing, right? Like there's an integrity there, and that, the goal is, am I in integrity at every point? Like asking that question. And then I just ask for source energy, when I need it. Or like today, or over last night, I felt something had shifted, and definitely astrology. There's a big square that just came that's making things a little more reflective and harsh. But they do a lot of occult style rituals and things, and sacrifice to their gods and all these sick things they do. And so sometimes they use these squares to bolster themselves. And so you have to take things day by day, because some days you're really, really clean and really pure and really strong. And then other days you're not. And that's okay. Meaning sometimes that's, you have to just go with it. You have to go with that day. And some days you don't feel courageous, and that's okay. It's okay if you just need to rest that day and say no to all the demands on you. But I think if you just keep connecting to the divine energy, you'll be given the waves of energy as you need.
That's beautiful, and thank God for this community, right? Because otherwise, if I was in a bubble, thinking like I think and seeing what I see, I would feel insane. But this community is gold. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. So we're starting to get down to the end of our time. Let's see which of my juicy questions I should ask now, and maybe possibly we can schedule something for the future that might be a little bit more behind the scenes, workshopy, like to get down to the. So here's a good one. Why shouldn't people hire lawyers?
Well, it's a similar concept where you are hiring somebody who's already made an oath to the very entity that is against you. So that system is not there. It's not really ideally there for you. It's there to balance a charge and to pin the charge on you. And the lawyer's job is to make sure that the charge gets, discharged however, and it could be on you, and it's definitely not going to be on the lawyer. So it's tricky because I know there are good-hearted lawyers out there, but they took a bar oath, and it's just like doctors who take their oath as well. It's like a satanic ritual ultimately, and the power structure is beholden to the very structure that bought them, that gave them the education, right? So they're beholden to the judge and the jury, or sorry, the judge and the court system, and not you, not what you is right or what you need. So, for example, we had to hire a lawyer for some stuff we were dealing with, and for business stuff, and she wouldn't do what we asked because she was afraid of the repercussions of what the bar would do if she did that, right? So she's not going to do what's right or what's just or what's fair or what's the right thing. She's only going to do it as far as she can take before she'll get put before her boards and told that you can't do that and whatever. So it's the same thing with the naturopath, being a naturopathic doctor under a licensing body or an MD under a licensing body. Do you think anyone who's licensed can actually say the truth about this scam going on right now? Of course not. They can't even offer proper solutions. They're not even allowed to suggest vitamin D and zinc and omega-3 fatty acids and detoxing. And they're not allowed to talk about the false germ theory. Not allowed to talk about any of that. If they do, they're shut down. I mean, I just lost my Instagram account today. It was 15.5K just wiped out, right? So they keep censoring it because, again, the whole underpinning of this lie is based on you can't find out. Because if you find out the scam, they're done. Mm-hmm. So only they let a percentage of us know, and I think it might be for karmic reasons or for some sort of, spiritual law that they have to follow to allow a percentage of us to actually know and exist knowing. But beyond that, if it gets too big, they start slapping it down, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just because they're beholden to not you. They're beholden to the bar, to those who they put the oath before. That's why.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So yeah, you can look after yourself way better.
And also they consider you, if you do that, the actual the legal system sees you as an imbecile. You're an idiot. If you hire someone else to speak for you, then you're obviously something's wrong with you. You don't know how to speak. You don't know how to present yourself, so they consider you an idiot. Mm-hmm. So that's also partly why you don't do that. The pro se way, is what you do. You don't give it away. You do it yourself, mm-hmm. and you speak your truth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amazing that you've done this, Amanda, and are doing. How has all of this, maybe as the last question or two, how has all of this affected your life as an entrepreneur and holistic healthcare provider? I mean, I just can't imagine the stress that you've been through at the same time.
Well, definitely stressful, but it's gotten my business more, right? It's gotten more, I'm booked into October for consultations. So I'm constantly scrambling to keep up with orders, and I make so many products. I've had to do things privately now. So everything is in Canada is just private membership only. I don't sell to the public because Health Canada, again, they're a corporation that is corrupted completely by the pharmaceutical cartel. So they don't care about your health or telling the truth or anything. It doesn't matter. We don't have an agency there to help the people anymore. It's not there. So any of those beings or groups that are under licensure, they've given the oath to the devil, basically. So meaning that corporate entity is comes prima facie over your needs or what's right. That's the fundamental issue we have here. So the way around it is to do things in the private. So everything is from person to person. I do have, because of my experience in training, I can do things under there's always loopholes in law. So I can do things under a personal compounding. So I can make a cream for someone with DMSO in it, for example, under a compounding law. So once I've had a consultation with them and I know what's going on with them, I can assist them by compounding something for them. So I can do that now, but privately. So now they're trying to create more and more corporate laws to stop us from trade and from international exchanges, and they just keep making more and more of these extra rules that you have to get around so that it exhausts you, right? Mm-hmm. That's how they get you, like death by 1,000 cuts, right? So that's why you need to be strong and courageous and centered and do your spiritual work and meditate and be clean with your food and be pristine with your energy and learn to have good boundaries and be able to say no. I think the hardest thing for me is when I see people just walking toward their own slaughter, and I know what's coming and I'm unable to stop them. The facts and the evidence don't work on the cult indoctrinated, brainwashed. So you have to literally watch them kill themselves. And it's so that I find quite heavy, and I have to somehow rectify that often. I have to find some sort of soothing with that. Otherwise I would just be in mourning all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't function like that when you're in that emotionality. So I have to take time to mourn that, and then to understand there's probably some sort of karmic balancing going on that I don't have my ear to, and there must be something else that I'm not in privy to. I don't have that knowledge of, right? So allow it to be, and just send light or send love or send whatever I can. But that balancing has been very challenging, and I have to actually upgrade my situation so that I have a bigger space, so that I can have more support and people here to help, and then it'll alleviate things. But it's gotten pretty from when I met you to now, it's like a totally different scenario for how busy I got. I mean, it's nuts.
And it was nuts. Already off the charts when I met you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
man. So it's a good lesson, so to speak. The same thing has happened for me. That at the beginning, I lost about $20,000 worth of income because people were like, "Oh my God, I lost my job! I lost my job!" Clients walking out the door. Plus, I was speaking out, so they didn't love me anymore. They were firing me or whatever. Mm-hmm. And after I decided I'm not going to lay down and die, I had about 5 minutes where I thought I would, and then I'm like, nope, never did do that before. Ain't going to do it now. And it's really been the best year of my whole entire life from a business and personal perspective as well. I'm more connected than I've ever been. I have amazing friends who get me, and nobody looks at me sideways anymore because they don't want to talk to me. Those people don't want to talk to me.
Nice.
Yeah. So there, it's really just to tell people through your example and through mine that when you choose the integrity path, and you don't give in to really what is the prostitute archetype, when you go out of integrity and you harm yourself to stay safe, which is like a really weird thing to do, mm-hmm. then you win, and it doesn't matter if we die early or whatever is ahead of us. We don't know what we're mm-hmm. gonna and what our fates are, but you'll never lose that way, being in integrity.
No, it seems to be the time where the feather is being put next to your heart on the scales, seems to be a bit of that, where, are you ready to do the hard work? Are you ready to stand up and listen to the inner calling? Because everyone's is different. If your inner calling says you need to go out with a megaphone and shout to the streets and try to wake people up that way, if that's what it legitimately feels inspirational inside of you, then you must listen and heed the call, right? And if it's to be a keyboard warrior and share information to people and help spread the word and overcome censorship and help people get the knowledge that, Google has been working very hard at keeping away from people, that's your calling. It's looking different for different people, and because it has to be the way this war is being fought is very different than other ways, right? So that's where you need to listen to yourself. That's why you need to get quiet inside of yourself so you can hear. If you're constantly distracted or busy or using things to escape from things that are uncomfortable, right? From facing uncomfortable truths, right? Then what happens is that will eventually build around you, and you'll get a landslide, and that is the worst. The landslide could kill you. So that's worse than the pain you think you're going to face by accepting the uncomfortable truth that's being kindly presented your way, right? And I say that to a lot of people who they're like, oh, well, why would the government want to do that to me? Or why would they lie? Or any of these naive questions, because they haven't done any of the workup, right? Because it's all about getting to the correct question. So when I know they start asking questions like that, then I know they have to reframe their question, which means I have to give them some history research to go and to understand. And a lot of people, I notice, they just like my partner says, they don't want to live in that world. They want to live in the illusion world that they've created. They prefer that over realizing that they've been bamboozled and that whole history was wrong, or that their entire career was a lie. That's a really tough one. Or their entire career, they've just hurt people. I mean, for a lot of MDs, that's extremely hard. Imagine you think that these shots are supposedly good and you're saving humanity and you're protecting them from disease. Like your whole life you thought that's what you're doing. All the while you were killing them, maiming them, causing cancers in them, fertility problems, brain tumors, seizures. You were hurting them. That is very difficult for a lot of people to overcome. So we have protection mechanisms in us that come up when we think it's something painful, right? That's where the real bravery comes in for a lot of these people. In doing self-forgiveness work, and a lot of work you do with the archetypes, and facing all those roles that you play, and really doing self-reflection, and looking inward and doing that work. It's important, and just accepting the fact that you made mistakes and that you didn't know and that you were used. And the best thing to do would be to stop immediately continuing to do those things, right? And get right with things. So
I was just going to say, and harvesting that pain, because it's electromagnetic force. It's just all tied up, and you don't have access to it like your trust or whatever. If that's the analogy, I don't know. But once you get that stuff flowing, then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of unstoppable like Amandha Vollmer.
Well, you're right. It's just energy. It's just an energy. So you can simplify it like that, and you can say, okay, how can I tap into that and utilize it now for the right aims, and make this correct, make it right. Have parents like this all the time who they thought they were doing the right thing, right? I get these stories literally every day. We didn't know. We gave them the shots as a kid. We thought we were doing the right thing, and now we're dealing with all this mess, all this damage, and we're struggling. They feel so much guilt, so much pain, and so they face it, right? But to reframe it as now they're going to use that energy to go out into the world and to prevent others from doing that, or to be an example for others who need that to get their own bravery up, to stand up against peer pressure or brainwashed doctors trying to strong arm them with fake authority, into doing something against their will, and overriding their own better judgment, and overriding their fundamental right to health freedom, to proper health freedom. I mean, I've been working health freedom groups for over a decade, and I'm going to continue to do that, because that is just a fundamental, inalienable right of ours to be able to choose what we decide to put into our bodies. And we've had a lot of boundary breaches from that, and so many levels, and in ways that are very sneaky, like in the food chain. I didn't consent to whatever, pesticide or herbicide or GMO product or anything that's in the food. I didn't consent to them, washing it or cleansing it with a chlorine spray or a fluoride, infusion water. I didn't consent to that. So that got into my body without me being able to have that information to make that decision, right? So those are all breaches, and we have to stop those breaches. I mean, they're spraying our skies every day and manipulating our weather. Those are breaches, boundary breaches that we can't control, that feel very overwhelming. When they spray the skies, I feel very overwhelmed because there's no way I can stop a drone or an airplane from doing that because I don't have that, intel or whatever it is. And it becomes overwhelming.
Rocket launcher, I don't know.
Whatever, yeah, like laser, I don't know. Yeah. But I have to I have to go in and just, call in energy and light and try to help people wake up and stop this nonsense, because that's part of the agenda as well, is to make us feel like we're dirty, we're disease spreaders, we're somehow disease spreaders even without having symptoms, which I cannot believe people really fell for that. That one really shocks me. And saying that we're also inherently bad for breathing out carbon dioxide, that carbon dioxide is killing us, and all of this sort of lies. Meanwhile, they're genetically modifying our bodies and affecting the way we are able to think or not think. And at the same time, they are spraying our and making weather changes and makes it look like it's a problem. So they basically social engineer all these ideas. And yet somehow still people can't see. It amazes me. It really does. They've done a very, very solid job of demoralization and taking away people's virtues. They have no virtues at all. They do these false, fake ego virtue signaling. That's all they've got. They don't have real, solid internal virtues anymore. And that's a whittling away that's happened over a long period of time. And, it's sad to see it because they're shallow people. And that cannot be a pleasurable experience to live through. I don't care what they say about ignorance being bliss or any of that. I think that would be hell on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. It's the darkest. Yeah, it's the darkest place. That if you live in fear for your life, then that fear is your God, and you're going to follow and support anybody that says they're keeping you safe, even if they are truly the perpetrator. You're going to align with them. You're going to bond to them, and follow them to the end of your life, probably.
Yeah, that's the Stockholm syndrome that we're seeing, so evident, and they've just embedded it so deeply. I think they've really mastered mind control, and I have a feeling they've got other tech involved in this one for some reason. I think there's more to it than just, owning it all, like manipulating the media and lying constantly. I think there's more tech this time, because I'll talk to people and I'll raise the light in them, and I can see that their logic comes on board for a second and they're able to have a conversation, like a real debate or a real discussion. And then it's like as soon as that conversation ends, something happens and they just retreat back into this primal brain, and that conversation is nowhere anymore. It's like it never happened. So they've done something fundamental here, I think.
I agree. And that's what inspired me. It's funny you used the word primal. That's what inspired me to put out the work. It's called Primal Power, looking at the primal archetypes that really are the precipice between life and death. And we continuously, every single day of our life, have to choose life or death. And it's a constant, if you don't choose life, you've defaulted to death. And so, this is where we're working right now, and where we can reclaim our power. It's also highly weaponized against us. But as a good jiu-jitsu practitioner knows, you can always turn that, right? The remedy is right inside the crime that's being committed to you. So
yes,
it's a beautiful thing. Well, Amandha, it's been incredible to have you here. It was a thrill. I was so excited for weeks now since we scheduled, and and then we'll look into this again. I am going to stay on after this probably for another 15 minutes or so. So anybody in the chat, I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to interact, but it's just so fun to hear every single word Amanda's saying. And how can we support you, Amandha? I know, obviously go to yumnaturals.store. That's where I'm going to be shopping tonight, by the way, before the whole, economy goes completely to hell. And so that's of course one way. Are there other ways that people can support your work right now that will serve you?
Well, the censorship is a real problem. So how we overcome that is we become the body in which we share it through many avenues. So you can censor one person's platform, but you can't censor if 1,000 people have shared your video on all their platforms. So I would say really be thinking about sharing as much as what we're talking about as possible to all kinds of different avenues and different platforms. That's very, very helpful. Because you don't know the timing that might come into someone's view or purview that can help them. So that's really one way to overcome what's happening. I'm also, because of this, creating a communications forum on my own platform. So I do have the naturals.store, but I also have yummy.doctor. And that's .doctor is the domain. So that's all you need to add.
Okay.
And right now, all my videos and I have blog articles and information there. But what I really want is that communication forum. So we're going to get that going as well. So you can actually register on yummy.doctor so that when that comes through, you'll get, information notification. There's a mailing list as well, so you can sign up to the mailing list. I think, so what happens in war is, of course, communications become compromised. So the more we can stay in touch and have few avenues of interactions, the better, so we can know what's going on. And I do like the Telegram channel that I have. I've been pretty happy with that so far. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket, but so far so good. And that is Healthy Dose of Truth. That's my Telegram channel. Okay. I do have Instagram for my Healing with DMSO, which is my book, and Yum Naturals as well, that they haven't gotten rid of yet. or maybe they'll leave it because I try to keep it with the stuff I make and this sort of thing. But what I'll do is I post like a picture of soap, that I make. I love making soap. And then below it, I'll say, here's this nice soap I made, blah, blah. By the way, go to this website and here's the information. So I'm doing it sort of embedded in that now and being a little more covert. So the sensors and the AI don't really pick up on that so much. The other way around it people can think about is teaching their kids cursive and learning cursive writing and doing their posts in handwritten cursive, because the AI can't censor that. So that would be a way else.
Make it. Oh, nice. So
yeah, like just
writing it, taking a picture, and then posting that.
Yes.
Cursive. Yeah, interesting. That's so good. It's becoming a lost art. Even for myself, I try to write, and I'm like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
exactly. So, but thank you. Yeah, those avenues are the best for now. And I do, I think we need to stay in touch with each other. And there's so many great, incredible people that I'm meeting. Like, as much as this year's been really absurd and stressful, the people that are really the woke ones and the ones who are doing the work, it's amazing how many are. So we need to keep our hope up and keep our light and strength there, and know there's more to this story than just evil getting away with everything, because they're not. They're just not. It just doesn't work like that. I think their 2000 reign of terror is ending, and this is why they're so desperate and so pathetic and so messy and sloppy, right? Everything they're doing is so quick. And I think we're meant to wake up through this, and so the more we can support each other, the better. So,
amen to that. So great. Well, this has been very, very beautiful. Thank you, Amandha. If for anybody who's out there, if you want to download this video for that purpose, I'm kind of wondering. I got a strike on YouTube very recently, and I know I'm on their radar now. So definitely download this. If for some reason the video is to go down right away, I will be, I've got the HD version of it, and there will be other places. Starting to get myself up on Odyssey. Rockfin also, I'm going to be rocking it out on Rockfin any second now. I got in there, and so yeah, just keep going, keep trying, and share the crap out of this stuff.
Great. And I suggest when you put, even after, maybe put ADV instead of my full name into the title.
I was wondering.
Would.
I thought about it. Okay, yeah, I will go do that edit. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that my name is like attacked majorly. Like,
fair enough.
Even on Facebook, which I'm on another 30-day ban. Even on there, my own page with my name, they won't let nobody hardly share anything if it has my name in it. It just says my name actually goes against Facebook's community standard.
Oh my God! Congratulations, Amanda. Like that is a place of honor, honestly, to be that targeted. But I know you go through a lot as well. So do whatever you can to support the work of Amanda Vollmer. She is the head of the spear right now. That and we're all going to be doing this together. Get together. Anyway, you heard her say it. So God bless you. I love you, Amanda.
Thank you. Love you.
My pleasure. And I will be staying on.
Okay.
All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Amanda. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Lots of love. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. So good. Wow. What a badass. Yeah. So good. So good. So I wanted to let you know I am going to be hosting a Zoom meeting right away to talk about the primal archetypes, and the course that's coming up. Today is the early bird deadline. And if you'd like to find out where to get that, that creative power, that confidence, that ability to just let yourself be on fire and go through the hard thing, then this might be good for you. There's Gloria, that's so fun. There's no obligation whatsoever. If you want to just come and learn a little bit about archetypes and how I work and how this stuff actually does work to very quickly raise your energy, you're most welcome. So don't worry about. I know there's some people coming from the previous course, so there will be a few stories there. And yes, Nachiketa, pay absolutely no attention to the man behind the curtain. Yes, exactly. So this is super fun. TJ Trusty, I'm glad you could make it. Daniel Crowley has been here. Thank you for that. Candace, Jill McFarlane. By the way, here is the link. If you'd like to join me in that chat, you can just sign up with your email because it's a little bit on the hectic side. This makes it simple. So it comes right to your inbox. And I can't share a Zoom link directly because they will spam the bejesus out of it. I know I made the mistake with Oli Damagard to share a Zoom link on some kind of platform, and it was spammed with porn. So you definitely don't want to see that at all. And so the link is there if you want to just sign up with your email. It's really quick and you'll instantly get that Zoom link. And hello, Clam, I called you. Nice to see you. I'm glad you were here. I will sure enjoy all of your comments later, so I apologize for missing so many of them, but they're awesome. You guys are amazing, by the way. So great. Welcome to those of you who have not been on my channel before. I am a business and archetype coach. I help people to find and be valued for their purpose so they can live in the way that God tells them to do, in integrity with themselves, even if it's kind of crazy and nutball and you can't really figure out why God is telling you to do that, but you do it anyway. It's a means for you to get the internal trust and power and see what you're made of, see who you are. It's a perfect fit with anybody who's studying the law, because if you don't have the emotional mastery, then you're going to get thrown off your game. Right? Whether it's making you sad or making you scared or making you mad, there is a big trap for the truth community, right? If they make you mad and you lose your stand and position and you go into dishonor, then it's not good. So I'm extremely passionate about offering this work. And thank you, Sass. I totally appreciate that. Lovely to see you here. I'm thrilled to watch all of these groups come together. I'm wondering if at some point there's going to be one big group, although it is a good time to be decentralized. Speaking of that, I just want to let you guys know well in advance, just under a month now, I'm going to be hosting Catherine Austin Fitz on this channel. It's like a huge coup to talk about the Great Reset and all the financials behind it. There might be something really big coming down the line on the law side. I'm not able to announce it quite yet, but any second now we're going to get our ducks in a row for that. And yeah, it's really an honor, pleasure. It's been a super difficult year, but I'll have to say as well, it's been the best year of my life. The deepest connections, the most meaningful sense of contributing what is actually needed. And Catherine is brilliant. Like, I know, exactly, amazing, right? It was quite a thing, and I'll tell you the story maybe another time about how I was able to make that happen. But it's simple, it's just following, just saying like, whoa, just what do you mean, God? Just phone her. Oh, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just phone her, even though I'm pretty sure that isn't going to work. I wasn't even sure it wasn't going to work. Next thing you know, they called me. So that was pretty fun. Yeah, exactly. And nutball is perfect. Yes, love is the whole of law. I love that, Danielle. That's very beautiful and true, I think. You're taking on the Facebook lottery. Yes. So good. So good. I want to go back in your comments now. I bet there's some amazing stuff here. But maybe I will also take a short break. And unless you guys have any questions, Steffi was here. By the way, Sunday night, Bitches Brew on Rose 777's channel. So do not miss that with Steffi and Rose and Jen and Karen BFE, who I think is here. Hope I didn't miss any. Oh, yes, Cami, of course. Cannot miss Cami. She's been on Crow 777, rocking it out lately. So good. Crow 777, like, oh my God, just a huge shout out to those guys. I can't keep up with it. I can't barely keep up with myself and my own projects, but it is definitely a massive resource. And if you're not a member in the back end, please go and do that. Save everything, put it on a special drive. So if we're not in contact for some reason through the internet, you have access to all of that. You watch most of Amanda's videos. Yeah, I've been junking on them. I'm hooked on her wisdom too. One of my favorite ones I saw of Amanda, or heard of Amanda, was with Curtis Stone on the Liberty on the Land. Amazing. Whoa. I was staggered. I was actually staggered, especially on the law, because those two have a lot of knowledge, and they talked at their own level, which is fun because they're not talking down to an audience that they think are beginners and maybe need to come in. They've both been seriously down the rabbit hole, had experiences, tested and experimented, tried stuff. And so they were able to go right to the epitome of a lot of this stuff. So I really, truly do recommend that. Hello, Missy Bear. Lovely to see you. I'm so glad you got to listen live as well. So yes, and Austin, definitely go back to the so I will change this video as soon as we're off to put initials instead of the name. And with any luck, it will stay here. And if it doesn't, I will have access to the high definition file. You can message me, beth@bethmartins.com. And then I will share the video with you. You can upload it. We'll just keep uploading it so that it doesn't go away. It can't go away. We are unstoppable. I just want you to know that if you don't already. Once again, I am going to be jumping on a private Zoom to talk about archetypes and the missing power, how to use archetypes to deprogram the New World disorder, right? They tell us it's order, ain't nothing order about it, like Amanda was saying. It's all knock them down, break them apart, sloppy, desperate moves. And all we need is energy. Because as soon as you have energy, you have the courage to let go of your shit, what's not you. What holds you back, what scares you, what makes you sad, what makes you angry, all of that kind of stuff. And it's not to wipe out the experience. It's to realize that you are the creator behind the experience. And it doesn't feel like that until you gain that kind of mastery. And you don't have to be at the mercy, right? That I was suffering PTSD. And once I recognized it, that's can often be the big work. Once I recognized it, I could just go like gangbusters, and I was completely finished with it in 4 days. Right? That's amazing for me. If I look back at my history, so this work holds a lot of potential for those that care to use it. The last time I ran the Primal Power course, it was so amazing. All truthers. You won't have to be normal for anybody. You'll be able to speak exactly as you see things. Everybody gets a partner in the course, so it's a real fellowship building kind of experience. I always leave the Zoom rooms open after classes, and people stay for like 2 hours. Sometimes they stay to third hour. And if you'd like the link to that Zoom, then here it is once again in the chat. You can just click on it, sign up with your name and email, and you'll get the Zoom link right to your inbox since it's going to be coming up very fast. And I think that's it. Unless you guys have any questions right this minute, I think we will be done for now. And you can always visit bethmartins.com. If you don't have time for this Zoom, actually, I will send out a recording so you can sign up anyway. Maybe you're gonna be off to something else right now, but if you sign up with your email, I will send out the recording as soon as I'm done. So just in case you wanted to hear that, we can do that. And it's 4 a.m. in India, so Nachiketa, you better go to bed. That's what my tombstone might read, go to bed, Beth. So there you go. All right, TJ, I'm so glad you could make it. It's Carlos is here again. That's awesome. Astral Thief and Pirate Pete has been here. Take care. Lots of love to you guys. It is absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be in community with all of you. All right, everyone. Bye for now.